Hey, you guys, look over there in the eastern sky. It's the brightest star in the sky announcing the birth of the King of the Jews. Really? Did that really happen? Is there any truth to that at all? Or did the early Christians just make up that stuff about the star to make the story sound better? Those are great questions. And for the sake of our kids who need to know that Bible stories are not just fantastic fairy tales, we need to find out. And if you agree with this, then click the like button below and subscribe to this channel to get more videos just like this to help our kids learn to trust God's Word, just like this one about the Star of Bethlehem. In fact, in just a minute, I'm going to tell you how you and your kids can actually see what scientists still call today the Star of Bethlehem, and you can see it with your naked eyes this December 21st, 2020. You need to get your kids ready to watch with you. We've all read the Christmas story many times. The wise men are quoted in Matthew saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." Now, how did they know a king was going to be born, much less the King of the Jews, just by looking at a bunch of stars? The star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood where the young child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. So where I want to take you in this video is not only finding out if the Star of Bethlehem is real, but how did the Magi know the King of the Jews was going to be born? Well, I'm going to do my non-scientific best to unwrap it for you. But first, who were these Magi anyway? Finding that out is going to help us answer our questions. They were known as astrologers from the East. Today, as Christians, now we know to stay away from the hocus pocus of astrology. But back in the day, astrology among the Persians, which is where these men were from, was treated more like science than the horoscopy psychic thing of, "What's happening to me today? Oh, let me check my horoscope." Astrologers from that area were highly educated in mathematics and current events. They believed that the stars revealed truths about human life and history, so they studied the movements of the heavenly objects to gain insight into how their world worked. I guess you could say they were pioneers or forerunners of astronomy, which is a true branch of science. So with that in mind, is it actually possible there may be some scientific evidence that the Star of Bethlehem was real, or what looked like a star? Well, did you know this year, December 21st, 2020, in the southwest sky near the horizon, just after sunset, there's going to be this giant light show in the heavens that has not been seen for over 800 years, and we won't be seeing anything like it again until 2080. And scientists tell us this is very possibly what the Magi saw thousands of years ago, and they still call it the Star of Bethlehem today. It's everywhere on the internet if you want to look it up. Astronomers are calling it the Great Conjunction. Or just do a search for the Star of Bethlehem 2020. You'll find all kinds of information on it. This conjunction means that two of the biggest planets, which are actually in reality 400 million miles apart, lined up so precisely that they appear so close together that they actually look like one big star instead of two. This has to do with the way they rotate around the sun. Their light will be so bright that you'll be able to see it with the naked eye, or you may have to use binoculars like these. Check this out.
A year that many of us would like to forget, there's a bright spot, literally. One spectacularly rare Christmas star is about to light up the sky on the first day of winter. Could it be the Star of Bethlehem? Jennifer Brindisi finds out.
The brightest lights in the heaven shines on the first night of the winter solstice this year, and it's bringing a sense of wonder and awe right before Christmas. It's not happened since 1626 and not been seen since the year 1226. We talked with expert Kurt Spivey from YSU, who explains it as Jupiter and Saturn coming super close together, appearing as a single bright star December 21st.
The people of the Middle East did not follow the planets and stuff like the people from the Far East did. So most scholars that you will talk to as far as astronomy goes do think it was probably a planetary conjunction that happened around, I think it was around 4 AD.
Regardless of whether you believe it's the Star of Bethlehem, which the Bible mentions, it is undoubtedly going to be quite the sight.
This is a terrific thing to look at with binoculars as well. And if it is cloudy on the 21st, they're going to be getting closer and closer and closer together over the next 3 weeks, and they'll still be really close together for a few weeks after that. So if you don't get them right at the close approach, try it on either side when you get some clear skies. It's still going to be a spectacular show.
With more local news, I'm Jennifer Brindisi.
Some astronomers have concluded that the Star of Bethlehem that guided the 3 wise men to Jesus Christ's birthplace in the Bible was more than likely a similar conjunction of planets like this one. In those days, they didn't know to distinguish planets and stars so much, so to them a bright light was a star. But instead of just 2 planets, the legendary German astronomer from the 17th century, Johannes Kepler, surmised that the Star of Bethlehem could very well have been a rare triple conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus. And by knowing this, we get some clues as how they got the message that the King of the Jews was born. To them, the stars all had names or meanings, and so did the constellations of the stars that encompassed them. For instance, this triple conjunction that the Magi saw may have been the appearance of a planet in the constellation Leo. To them, this constellation represented royalty. And Jupiter was one of the biggest planets in that constellation and was known to them as the King Star. The king, so we've got a royal constellation and a king star. And there's some big clues right there. Now, this is going to end up being a lot like dream interpretation if you know anything about that. So this would have suggested to the ancient astrologers a regal or a royal birth. More recently, a lawyer from Texas by the name of Rick Larson did a lot of research about this and put all of his findings in a movie called The Star of Bethlehem. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's fascinating. I've put a link below so you can watch it later. He found that about the right historical time of Jesus' birth, there was a conjunction of Jupiter and Venus, followed by 3 conjunctions of Jupiter and the star in the constellation of Leo, which they said was the lion. So now it gets a little more complicated because from what I can gather, there were 2 more constellations in the season that are significant as well. This first one, however, was then followed by a second conjunction of Jupiter and Venus and Leo 9 months later. Now, Regulus is the brightest star in the constellation of Leo, and so it is also thought to be very special. And to the Magi of that day, Regulus represented the country or nation of Israel. Go figure. And Israel is also, as we know, referred to as the Lion of Judah. Are you starting to see a connection here? Then 9 months, the length of a pregnancy, right? After the first conjunction of Jupiter and Regulus, there was another conjunction of Jupiter and Venus, or the planet of mothers. And this was all in Leo. And Leo was looking west over Israel. Mr. Larson's theory concludes that if you were in Jerusalem looking south towards Bethlehem at that time, Jupiter would have been standing in Virgo, the constellation of the Virgin, thus putting it all together. The constellation of royalty, Jupiter the king star, Regulus referring to Israel, who is also known as the Lion of Judah, and 9 months later, a constellation including Venus, the planet of mothers, sitting in Leo that was looking west over Israel. They put it all together and concluded that the King of the Jews had been born and they wanted to worship him. Now, one last question. Why would these Eastern Magi want to worship the King of the Jews? In my research, I discovered that some people speculated that these Magi lived around the time of Daniel, the chief of the magicians in Persia, which is where the Magi came from. Okay, it's a long shot, but the speculation is that they could have very well been Jewish descendants of the Jews who had been carried away into Babylon. And through Daniel, who is the master teacher of the Babylonian and Persian magicians, they could have learned about the prophet Isaiah and their Jewish heritage, learning that this King of the Jews was in fact their king. Why else would these Easterners want to go and worship the king of another nation? King David said, "The stars speak." Psalms 19:1 and 2 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Day after day they pour forth speech, and night after night they reveal knowledge." The Bible says the stars can carry messages from God on high. And if that's true, then the stars were a part of his communication to those living in the Magi's day. To our understanding of what happened in the sky, he continues to speak to us today. Now, if you like this video, I also did another one recently called What Your Kids Don't Know About Christmas. It's full of prophetic messages that make the Christmas story even more meaningful. You can get a copy of it by clicking on the link below in the description. Now, if you like this video, be sure to click the like button and the subscribe below so you can see every time I upload a new video to this channel. Till next time, Merry Christmas.